So I kind of left off talking about how I was hating on the movie. Now, this is around the time where the movie started to shift for me a little bit, and it was the help of Martin Lawrence, not Will Smith. You see, Will Smith has done so many movies, so much iconic movies, that it takes a lot for me not to think of Will Smith when he's there in front of me. Whereas for Martin Lawrence, I really haven't seen Martin Lawrence in a while. So I got to really see him shine. And it was great. And we're at the part where Martin Lawrence is pouring his heart out in the hospital chapel, and it was a great scene. It really was, and I enjoyed it much. I was like, wow, this is great. He's doing a good job. This thing 6. Yeah, he was doing a good job, Martin Lawrence. And I started to shift a little bit. And then the next scene was, we're seeing tons of people getting killed. At least 3 or 4 people getting killed with a sniper. By sniper, or by this motorcycle that's just like motorcycle driving around and all black. The guy's in all leather, and he's just like really just, he has this checklist, and he's on top of it, and he's on top of, killing these people to avenge what his mother told him, how they lost everything because of these people. And we find where we're at now. Oh, big raccoon running right by me. Hey, raccoon. So, one of the next scenes it was kind of funny because Martin Lawrence is dyeing Mike Lowry's beard, because he was trying to explain to him, like, listen, we're dyeing our beards, man. We're getting old. Let's let the new people come in. Let them, show what they can do, kind of a thing. We don't have to be on Front Street like this. And so while he's in the hospital recuperating, but before he recuperates, he has this like little moment with God. And like in traumatic situations, we tend to try to negotiate our lives away with God. And this is something Martin Lawrence was doing, and he's crying, and he's telling God that he will never do anything again. Then he explains why he hasn't been in church, because of the violence that he's pushed around. It was a good scene, and it was done very classy. And what we see is Mike Lowry's character recovers, which never for 1 second felt like he wasn't going to recover. I mean, this guy took, 3 bullets to the chest, and he still was able to live. Okay, I'm sure that happens. So, didn't seem very realistic, but okay. So he shows up to the wedding of Martin Lawrence's daughter, who's marrying the guy she had the child with, who was in the military, who's wearing his Marine outfit to the wedding, and gets married in his Marine outfit. And the scene was done near a pier. And I just felt that we have a prosecutor who's been shot by a sniper. We have all these people that are involved in all this kind of stuff that are like dying, and yet you were shot in the chest as well, and you felt that it was okay to be at a place where Martin Lawrence's daughter's getting married out in the open near a pier where there was because it's a Miami themed movie, non-stop Miami theme. So of course they have to have you by the port, having all these wedding things are happening, where I just feel like if you were shot that many times and all these other things were happening where No one shoots and kills police officers like that. No one shoots prosecutors like that. And for them to just think that he would have been under so much surveillance, Will Smith's character, they would have never allowed him to just be out in the open, nor would they ever want him to be. Oh, wait a minute. Didn't I say this part wasn't the part with the hatred? Okay, I guess I was hating the movie a little longer than I'm saying. So I definitely didn't care for that scene. Because it would have just been so much tension. I actually felt a little bit of tension there, worrying whether or not there was going to be some sort of innocent bystander. You know, I didn't worry for Will Smith's character or Martin Lawrence's character, but I was afraid that, you know, someone innocent was going to get shot, just overly violent for no reason. But that didn't happen, and that was cool. This is the part where Will Smith had an opportunity to talk to the captain. And the captain was, you know, so typical. You know, the guy who's yelling and screaming, so much so that he's like, you know, has the Pepto-Bismol at arm's length. It was so cliche. I mean, for police captains to watch movies like this must be so irritating. There was a moment that Will Smith's character and the captain were at a baseball game, and they did have a moment where they talked about, there was a monk, but this is the captain talking to Will Smith's character and explaining to him that, listen, there's this monk, and the monk is like walking, and then another monk is coming towards him on a horse, or a Buddhist. They were Buddhists, and the Buddhist is coming towards him on a horse and just driving this horse just like nonstop. And he was trying to say how when asked, why are you driving so crazily on this horse, the Buddhist on the horse said, I have no idea, ask the horse. And he was trying to tell Will Smith's character, like, listen, man, like, you know, you're the horse, out of control, and you're gonna freaking like go over the ledge. Enough is enough. So I understand that they had to have this scene because they wanted it to be more than, you have this officer who's has no real emotional ties to the captain, but he does. And they was able to like push that narrative that, you know, because the whole concept of this was the mom wanted Will Smith's character to suffer, so they're going to take out everyone he loves. And we all know that Martin Lawrence's character should have been the first one killed. But to the defense of that, a lot of this was information that was from that thumb drive or that USB memory stick, and that was a lot of old information. So his relationship with Martin Lawrence wasn't that strong. So this guy, the son's character, the one who's out for revenge, it's possible that he didn't know how close, or didn't even care to know how close Will Smith was to anyone. He just killed whoever he was supposed to kill at the time he was supposed to kill them. But we do find out that he moved a little too fast in trying to kill Will Smith's character, and they had to wait. But he constantly needed to be understood, and he needed understanding. Like, why I have to wait? Why can't I just kill him? He's right here. And then she had to explain, like, son, I want this man to suffer. And then I want you to say this to him when you get him. When I tell you to kill him, right before you kill him, this is what you say to him. So, I would have liked to have heard him yell it, shout it, and scream it when he finally said it to Will Smith, because he was on, Will Smith's character was hanging from a helicopter and hanging from the stair rope of the helicopter, and the guy yells out the words that his mom told him to say to Will Smith. And it's like, I would like to have seen him yelling it, like almost to the point where he was hoarse. Because, you know, that chopper is going and it's loud. And it's just like, come on, no way you can hear anything. You know, you got the water, you got the, you know, then Martin Lawrence's character shooting bullets. Oh, and let me backtrack. I feel a little exhausted having to like go through this because it's so unnecessary. It's like, I don't think I need to break down this whole movie and all the shootouts. And then there was a time when the people showed up, this organization that was working for the police organization, they actually showed up with weapons, and these were non-lethal weapons. So they were like promoting this non-lethal weapon kind of a concept for a moment, and it was a little like, what? Like, when are we pulling out rubber bullets? Like, and why are we doing that? And then they had no warrants, and they're doing all the surveillance, and, you know, even though, don't get me wrong, you don't need a warrant anymore with the Homeland Security and all this kind of stuff. So I get that too. And this was some sort of rogue organization, not rogue, but some sort of fringe, not fringe. It was some sort of organization that was through the police department in Miami that was looking and hunting down these killers. And of course, Will Smith had to muscle his way in that situation, and there was younger guys there, and there was that, you know, that whole, I was gonna say tongue-in-cheek, but not tongue-in-cheek, but just that friction between the young bull and the old bull. And then there was a scene at a club, and there was no shootout at the club, but there was a scene at the club, and then there was another scene where they were after this guy that was selling bullets, and the people that were after him decided to not pay for the bullets. They wanted to kill everyone for the bullet. Like, come on. It was just constantly showing us that criminals are just out to just get over any chance they get, and they just want to kill everyone. And it's just like, come on, how could people do business in this world if that's the way it really truly was? So it was a little propagandary with this whole, you know, a lot of the shootout scenes and the people they were looking for. Oh, what about DJ Khaled's role? I thought DJ Khaled did very good. You know, and this guy Mike Lowry is assaulting him with a meat tenderizing stainless steel hammer, slamming the hammer on his knuckles to get him to tell him who's out here in these streets pushing these certain kind of bullets. You know, maybe I didn't like the movie. I think I didn't like the movie. I must not, because it seems like every single scene still belongs in part 1. And this is part 2. It's supposed to have gotten better by now. So let me just think a little bit. Let me put this in my mind and see where we're at. We had the first shootout where they used this drone, and they had the drone. And interestingly enough, I own that drone. I have the same damn drone, and it's not that good. That drone does not have sensors on the bottom of it to stop it from slamming onto the ground. So I thought that was interesting. But, you know, they're flying this drone around, and they're doing reconnaissance with the drone. Will Smith's character sees that the exchange of money, the bag was a little too light to have actual money in it, so he goes to save the person that they're trying to set up in order to have him flip on someone else. So, very typical. You know, we all seen this stuff before. All of this stuff we've seen. And, of course, the person that Will Smith is after, he's dead. He dies in this whole melee and this quagmire that's running around. So now, what's happening here? Martin Lawrence's character is totally out of this, but he gets this weird call from a confidential informant that he had who's afraid, and he's feared for his life because there's a guy in a motorcycle he feels is following him. Next thing you know, Martin Lawrence and Will Smith's character go to meet up with this confidential informant, but this confidential informant said something very weird, that you can use me as bait to flush the guy out. Like, who volunteers himself like that? Like, what? You know, most CIs are people that are so you know, like, they're down for themselves. They're not trying to, you know, they're not trying to use themselves as bait in order to capture someone. They're not going to do that. No. You know, they would just get on they would get on a bus and get the hell out of town. But it's a movie. I get it. So it's like you have to throw a lot of your reality of what would be real and what is necessary out the window. You got to, because if you don't, you're gonna be thinking like I'm thinking now. And Martin Lawrence's character borrows the wife's car, meets up with Mike Lowry, and what does he do? He gets to the place where the confidential informant was. The confidential informant takes a nosedive right on top of Martin Lawrence's car, which he borrowed from his wife. And it's a Nissan with the CVT transmission, so it wasn't even worth keeping. You know, it's like the worst car that you can ever have. It seems like this movie, every time I look at it, the budget is just ridiculous. But anyway, and when I say ridiculous, I mean, like, where did the money go? So, Will Smith's character is now fighting with someone, and they're like falling from buildings and slamming onto awnings, and it's obvious that not only is it a stuntman, there's massive CGI in these fight scenes. It's to the point that it's comical. It's like, come on, you know. And this guy's like punching a guy wearing a helmet. The motorcycle helmet guy kept the motorcycle helmet on. And there was a moment when the motorcycle helmet visor lifted up and they looked at each other in their eyes, eye to eye. And there was just something about this look that I kind of got, but like the director did enough of a job where I was able to say to myself, this is important. You know? This is important. You know, and what do we find out? That this person who's beating the crap out of Will Smith kills the confidential informant, and at the baseball game, he winds up killing the captain. So first it was the confidential informant, then it was the captain. And, you know, Will Smith's character was a little overacting with his emotions on how he wanted to get him back. And Martin Lawrence was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then finally, of course, Martin Lawrence's character gives in to the pressure of all the death that's happening around him, wanting to save his friend and wanting to be there for him. That he's like, yeah, one more time. And they have like that fist bumping one more time kind of a thing. And it was kind of corny, but you know, we always hear these movies, one more time, just one more last move, one more last this, and one more time this, one more time that. And, you know, I found myself being a little, like, everything was kind of happening the way I expected it. And then I'm going to jump a little bit ahead because I feel no need to break this movie down. It's not good enough to get a blow-by-blow, play-by-play. And we find out that, spoiler alert, that the guy that's killing everyone and that's after Will Smith happens to be his son. Because Will Smith, straight out of the academy, got picked up by some sort of intelligence agency and was working undercover, found his way to be the driver for this huge cartel guy's wife. Then he starts screwing the wife, knowing that the wife is a witch. Because there was a sense of her witchery when she escaped from the prison after 24 years, where she was able to like just really put so much fear in the hearts of this horrible correction officer that was just knocking things around. It was so ridiculous and outrageous. It just didn't make any sense. Like, why would this officer just be like just hammering, you know, slamming, talking about hurry up, and just banging things around? Come on. But I digress. And what we have is, let me think. We find out that that Will Smith dated this woman, the woman who escaped from jail, and she had an 8 month. She had a child after being in prison for 8 months, and So, of course, he believes that this person is his child. I guess we go back to them looking at each other in the eyes and having this awareness, kind of like, when Darth Vader told Luke, look into yourself, you know the truth, the truth is in you, so it was one of those kind of weird truth drops, but not a lot of information to give it a true truth drop. And Will Smith decides to go to Mexico. He pulls a few favors. He gets him and Martin Lawrence some weapons. Martin Lawrence pops up on him on the plane. And I liked his character, just huffing and puffing and fussing and just, excuse me. Oh, let me put my bag right there. Just vocalizing every step that is being taken. Those people, you always see them all the time. And, it's kind of, I thought it was good. I thought it was funny. It wasn't until that point where I started to laugh. When Martin Lawrence was like getting the story, like he's talking from Will Smith. He got a seat behind Will Smith, and he's like talking to him, and then there's an extra right next to Will Smith. I know he loved that. Just to be able to sit there with Will Smith on that scene was just probably like the highlight of his life, I'm sure. And Martin Lawrence like, maybe we should switch seats. And he's like, yes. And he got up, and then Martin Lawrence just like browbeat Will Smith's character about how he like slept with a married witch. That was the funniest part. But let me just say something about this witch situation. I do not like the way they incorporated this woman being a witch. And throughout the movie, she's taking pictures of all these people that she's out to kill for destroying her life, having her in jail for 24 years or whatever the case is, and not taking any responsibility for herself. And I felt like that was a shot at Latins. Like this just Latin people are just these, overly sexualized people that are very vengeful, even in their beauty. They have that beauty, but they're very vengeful and very vindictive and non-forgetting and non-forgiving and out to kill and things like that. So I kind of didn't like that aspect of it. It was just this darkness that was just cliche. It was cliche, but I get it. You want your bad guys to look a certain way and sound a certain way and act a certain way, and I get it. I get it. But I was like over it from very early on. I was over it, over her character as well. But she was very attractive. She didn't have much of an upper lip, but she was an attractive woman. She had the age on her was so appropriate for the movie. I thought she was cast well for that. And it's basically Will Smith goes to Mexico to kill his son and kill the mother of his son, the escapee from prison. And then, of course, the tactical team from, the precinct that was working together to solve this crime, which Will Smith felt was taking too long, looking for parking. Will Smith's character was taking way too uber long, and what happened? Ooh, I think I see a spot. Is that a spot? That's a spot. Please don't take my spot. Getting nervous. The light is still very green for these cars. You know what? I'm gonna woosah and not worry about the parking, because if the parking is meant to be, then I'll get it. Not that I'm so into meant to be stuff. Okay. sec while I try to make sure I fit this bad boy in this little thing here. This little spot. Let's try this again. In there, baby. I am in there. Let me close my mirror so I don't give the illusion like I'm about to pull out. Because I can see them now. You leaving? Are you leaving? No, I just got here. Sorry. So, where I was Martin Lawrence's character, Will Smith. He's, the shootout, the person dies, the mom is very vengeful, he's on the plane, and there was such great comedic timing between the two of them. Will Smith just huffing and puffing and just irritated at every moment by Martin Lawrence, and Martin Lawrence just truly not caring and just loving and loving all over Will Smith and in a masculine, hetero way. And just not being afraid to be there. And I thought that was pretty funny. And it kind of reminds me of the scene when they were at the club. And Martin Lawrence has this moment where he's talking about how he hasn't had sex in so long. And that, you know, he started to talk about some really personal stuff. And everyone is like, hello, we can hear you. So that was very funny. That might have been when I first laughed at that scene. Oh, you know, when I first laughed was in that club scene, but when the person that they were after, Martin Lawrence, was like, you go to jail, you go to jail. And then the guy just jumped over the balcony, grabbed onto some sort of metal barrier, whatever it was, and he was like, I told you he was athletic. I told you he was athletic. So that I remember being probably the first time I actually laughed out loud in the theater. And then I laughed out loud about 4 or 5 more times after that. I started to really warm up to the movie, and I started to let all that go about the receiving blankets and the weak-faced jawed person and the cheesy chase scene that just shows how cops are just going to do whatever they want to do, and we're all just cannon fodder around them. And, you know, I got rid of all of that and just kept trying to get that out of my... not that I tried to get it out of my head. It slowly dissipated from my head because the movie did get a lot better. And maybe it was the turn of events by Will Smith's character having that son who's after him and wanting to kill him. But then I have to admit, I was just like, didn't he just do a movie like this? Where there was like this cloning situation where he was like running around fighting himself, and he talked in this movie. He talked like he talked in the other movie about how he knows it's his son because he was so quick with this killer instinct. He's just like me, you know, like just truly patting himself on the back as the killing machine that he is for justice, of course. You know, he's not like a criminal or anything like that or immoral. No, he has that badge, and that badge gives him, you know, anonymity. And that badge gives him a way of being above the law. So, you know, there has to be the ending scene, the fight scene. Like, he goes to where he knows that she's going to be, and he's there with the team, Martin Lawrence, and he walks in there, and they have a little verbal exchange. And then he has like a pendant he's wearing, and she knows it's a camera, and the son is just like, you know, maybe the movie was trash. But I became emotionally invested in the movie for some degree, even though despite all this trash that I keep while I'm going through it and thinking about the scene after scene after scene. You know, the scene with the rubber bullets was a bad scene, not a good scene. Then the guy who was the computer tech guy, who they just kept talking about how large he was and how menacing he appeared. He didn't appear like that. He appeared to be very gay. Very, 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 very gay to me. He looked like a typical bear that you find, or a typical, I don't know if we would refer to him as a bear. It would be, because I guess I'm more of a bear than he was. He was a clean-cut guy who looked like he played some college football. Whoop-de-doo. He wasn't hugely menacing. But he was also able to, I'm sure people liked his character because they tried to introduce all these other characters that were part of this like strike force team. And there was the main woman who ran it, of course, had a sexual thing going on with Mike Lowry, which shows his unprofessionalism. He's constantly can't keep his penis in his pants, and he will not only have sex with the people that he is undercover there to infiltrate, he's also will have sex with someone he works with, you know, and probably an underling, and probably it's like this movie just like it doesn't allow professionalism to take precedence. It's just wrapped around emotion, you know, like the revenge killing was all about the emotion that this woman had, that she bestowed onto her son to be this ruthless killer for revenge. And it was just nonstop emotion, 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 emotion. No one was thinking in a professional way. It's almost as if this movie just refused to take that moment and say, wait a minute, what are we saying here through this entertainment? What are we saying? We're saying that cops are above the law, and if they feel that what they're doing is right, they can get away with it. That's what it came across to me. The more I talk about this movie, this part 2 is not revealing anything good. But it's, while in the moment, I felt, you see, I never worried about Will Smith's character because they didn't introduce anyone in the movie that could potentially take on the franchise. So I knew he was going to survive. I didn't think he was going to get shot twice, because then that would have just been crazy. I was thinking Martin Lawrence was going to have to take that bullet, you know, but Martin Lawrence didn't take a bullet the whole movie. And once he put on his glasses, he was able to shoot better. That was pretty funny. You know, but his character shouldn't have a hang-up with glasses. But, you know, they wrote it in that way, so I get it. All right, let's get to the good parts. What do I give this movie? If you're like a 1 to 10 kind of a person, and 10 being the best, I would have to give this movie, after further review, I would have to give this movie 3 stars. I mean, a 3. A 3. 1 out of 10, I give it a 3. Yeah. My heart rate didn't go up for any of the scenes. Even the ending, I have to tell you, this is post Kobe Bryant interview. This is not like I ran to the theaters to see this movie a week ago when it came out. I waited. And I saw it tonight, post Kobe Bryant. And the helicopter scene was very disturbing. Very disturbing. Because it made you think of Kobe. So it was a good thing this movie came out 2 weeks before the Kobe Bryant incident, And I know everyone on that side of Hollywood is like, oh, thank God. Because the helicopter scene was very, very reminiscent. It was a lot of fire, it was a lot of helicopter, and it was a lot of spinning around and crashing. You know, and of course, there was the scene where Will Smith was able to explain to the, you know, he fought the son. Of course, he's using his ego brain. And of course, he has to have that mano to mano, they call it, man to man or hand to hand, mano to mano. He had to, like, you know, fight the son. So he's fighting this younger, faster, much more vicious and aggressive killer version of himself, and he overpowers him, and he puts him in the, I don't know how he got out of that arm bar. That was kind of crazy. But Will Smith got out of the arm bar, and wait, did the floor collapse? Was that how he got out of the arm bar? I don't remember. But the fight scene was okay. Will Smith choking his son out the way he did and knowing that he could have killed him was a good scene. It was like he had to know that he could have killed him in order not to kill him. You know, he had to have that power over his son right there, right then, in order to be merciful to him. And then through his mercy to his son, he submitted to the son and allowed the son to basically beat the crap out of him once he got his composure back together. And by him doing that, kind of, is that a better spot I see? Because this spot here is 7:30 and the one across the street is 8:30. So I might have me an 8:30 spot. I don't see the guy turning his lights on. Let me back up just to be on the safe side. Oh, his lights are on. He's getting out of that spot. Can I fit there? Hope so. Oh no, I can't fit there. This is a Toyota Supra. I can't fit in that spot, which is really a BMW. Sorry. Yeah, that's a little Toyota Supra. There's no way I could fit there. It would have been nice to get that spot, but it's okay. 7:30 it is. So Will Smith didn't, like, so now we have where the son questions the mom, and the mom is holding a gun in her hand, some Desert Eagle, something from like what you saw in the 90s movies, and, you know, like chromed out, huge, it's just huge weapon. It's like, look at my weapon and how huge it is weapon. And she says to the son, when he says, is it true what he's saying? And she says, what does it matter? He's nothing to you. So she didn't lie. And then when she lifts up the gun and goes to shoot Mike Lowry, the son jumps in front of the bullet, takes the bullet to the shoulder, kind of passes out a little bit, kind of a thing, or is thrown to the ground. The building is on fire from the helicopter fire, and Mike So one of the women from the tactical team, she winds up taking that woman out who shot her own son. She hits her with like 15 shots on a very emotional shooting rant, and it was very much like a Rambo scene, where you can probably see the bullet just in slow motion, some sort of John Woo style directing of that scene, which John Woo would have did that fire in that volcano in that scene. John Woo would have turned that out. Let's not get it twisted. Or at least there was a time where he could have, I don't know. John Woo is not a young man. And I don't know if I don't know much about him as of the last 15, 20 years. But the scene looked like something out of a John Woo movie, but not as good. And that was 20 years ago when there were good scenes coming from him. So what we have is, we have a woman who now has been killed, and like they show her body falling from the balcony onto the helicopter that's on fire, and the thud sound that they used was gross and sounded like whatever you would think that sound would be. And I get it, it's a movie, I get it. So they showed the woman falling with the bullet holes all through her body as she's falling in slow motion and landing on the burning helicopter. So Martin Lawrence's character then falls off the balcony for some reason. I can't remember exactly why. And he's slipping. He can't keep his grip. Mike Lowry can't hold him up. And what happens? The son who was shot by the mother, who kind of passed out, was able to wake up, revive himself enough to have the wherewithal to recognize, I'm sure, that his mother's no longer there, and still aid in Mike Lowry's wanting to save Martin Lawrence's character. So we have a guy who sought redemption very, very quickly. Yeah, I give this movie 3 stars, maybe 2.5. Like, no, I give it a 3 when it comes to 1 to 10. When it comes to whether I'll give it 1 or 2 thumbs up, maybe we'll do 1 thumbs up because I walked out of the movie not feeling bad about the movie. So we'll do 1 thumbs up. And if it's a 5-star, I would give it a 1.5 stars. Seriously. The movie wasn't good. Now that I'm reviewing it and I got out of that wherever headspace I was in, there was a bit of a truth drop at the end when Will Smith's character goes to the cell that the son is in. And you can tell from the way the son's facial hair had grown, it was a few months have gone by. And at least 30 days have gone by from the time of them bringing him back to the States to answer for killing, district attorneys and retired police officers and informants, and, shooting his own father in public on the streets. And then he killed a few gangsters, especially in the beginning, which was a good scene. It was very John Wick, but it was with one of those little tiny knives. And this dude went for just straight up, what's those main veins, those carotid arteries. He went for the carotid arteries and took like 4 guys out, and it was actually a good scene. Very John Wick, but more believable and without a gun. So I thought that was pretty cool. And Will Smith's character meets up with his son, asks him how he's doing, and then he's holding an envelope, like very top secret envelope kind of a thing. At least that's the impression on the brain. And what happens? He's offering him a job. Once again, the most violent, evil SOBs out there will get chosen. It's like nothing you can do about it. They will get chosen. You want to be an evil, what's that? Sociopath, psychopath, narcissistic SOB who learns how to fight, learns how to snipe, and think that you're just going to sit in a cell? No. The guy sitting in the cell, he's the one who went into 7-Eleven and blew the guy's brains off for $100. No one is asking him to do anything. So there was a bit of a truth drop at the end. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I'm a little melancholy right now, only because it's just been a long day. I'm really tired, and I still want to let you know I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. I know my energy was a little low towards the end of this video, but it is 4:43 in the morning. It's late. The movie that I caught was 12:45. There was 29 minutes of previews. And then the movie was, I don't know how long, I can't remember. Bad Boys for Life. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? And nobody gonna be them, no one knows those words. Boom.